All right, welcome back. I've just been giving a bit of a tidy up in here and getting ready for probably the hottest day we've had this year, which is one of the difficulties we have to deal with when it comes to Pattaya pairings. There's two things. Obviously the timing of it's not ideal for this part of the world, but there's two things. We've got to deal with the molt, and we have to also deal with the very, very hot Western Australian summers, which are pretty ridiculous because we get about 100 days of sunshine, not a cloud, and those days can be up into the 43 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot and generally doesn't cool down overnight. So it's something we have to be mindful of. At this point, the main focus is our Pattaya pairings for this year. Last year, basically for the pickings of that, we were very limited and actually picked, I think it was my third pick. I didn't really want to send them because I didn't think they were going to be as good as they were, but they turned out to be not too bad. So this year I kind of want to be as transparent as possibly can, because I think it pays to, and I really want to go into like the pairings, what birds we're using, and why we're using them and things like that, so that we can all follow along and, you know, just see how we go. If we have a good year, we have a good year. If we have a bad year, then yeah, it's a bad year. So we'll definitely see how we go next week, because obviously we've done the final, but I'm just having a bit of a look around, but basically we'll go into a few pairs as we go along. But we've got the final that was just been, and we got 1,109th out of that on the day. At least the birds made it home, which is really good because it was very difficult, that final. And that bird, I think it was about 270th ace pigeon out of all those pigeons. So 270, it would be between 270 and 272. It did change slightly there because those birds are coming in before the Pattaya One Loft took down the ace bird rankings when they closed the race out. So we'll probably see a more final figure of that shortly after the 600 kilometre race, but that bird done pretty well, and it was the second best performing ace pigeon out of the Australian team, which I'm pretty happy that they performed better than I thought they would have. But yeah, it's very interesting. Like, you just pick pigeons, and obviously I thought Kaya, the slate one, was going to be better, but she was very fast in the beginning, and she got slower where the other one was slow, and he got faster and faster as that distance went out. And now that we have taken out, as far as I believe, the top 500 pigeons are not in the next race. They all put aside for the auctions, and now those top 500 pigeons are taken away. That does leave my final pigeon a very good chance to actually land in some money, because he's been very consistent, and he seems to just get faster and faster. And the race looks pretty easy next week. The temperature's lower, tailwind, then it's definitely a lot lower than the final. I think the final's around about 33 degrees. It's looking like 26, 28 degrees next week. So definitely going to play a part in it. Historically, the Pattaya races, they've all been pretty fast, but they generally have a bit of heat in them. So I've been doing a lot of research, and obviously, like, the average over the last 3 years for all the races around about 1,609 velocity. So to me, that's a pretty fast race. So that's kind of why I've been looking at my pairings. I know a lot of people here are putting in the really good Australian long distance pigeons, crossing them into a few birds. But for me, I like, at this point in time, I'm really focused on heavy middle distance pigeons, those 500s to 800s. That's kind of where my focus is at the moment, because obviously that done quite well for us this year, locally and in Pattaya. So I'm going to keep going with that, and we may look at bringing in some of the really good old Aussie stuff a little bit later. But for now, I think it's best to stick with birds with a bit of speed, because all those races are still pretty fast, and that's where my birds kind of struggled this year, because they didn't. Those birds didn't have the speed, so they're more of a 1,200 and under kind of pigeon, but they still managed to sort of stick in there in the 1,500s. So we'll definitely see how we do go with that anyway. But yeah, so the next few weeks we'll really just be focusing on the Pattaya birds, and we will look at the other birds on and off. But we want to go through these pairings because these hens are all starting to lay now. Still 2 cages down the bottom that I haven't been able to successfully get them coming in and out of there. They were just going to other boxes and cause trouble. I was hoping to do that before we had eggs, but that didn't happen. So we'll just have to sort of wait and see over the next few days. I've got the next 3 days off, so I'm going to try and get them locked in, because both these pairings I definitely want to consider getting pigeons, especially that one. That's my good performing bird from last year. So the one pair that I'm kind of interested in this year, it's a bit of a wild card, but I'm purely picking this pairing on performance and paired them together specifically for Pattaya. And I do want to focus on these ones a bit because, like I said, they're a bit of a wild card, but I've picked both of these because of their performances. And they both are down off my birds, even though the dark checker was, it came from my friends. But as you know, I do give birds away to people to race and test for me. And one of those babies was his best performing hen, which he paired to his dark checker cock, and produced this guy and a whole bunch of other really well performing birds. And I was lucky enough to get this one back, and I do really like him. I like the colour. I'm not focusing on colours this year. My main focus is one loft pigeons, 100%. I'm fully focused on it, and that's why you don't see a lot of colours at the moment. We still do have colours, but they're in my other loft. But at this point in time, it's just whatever's going to get back to the final and be the first over the pad is what I'm looking for. So basically this guy last year, I've actually gone through and got the results off the Fed menu. So he pretty much raced every race out to 800 kilometres. No, he went to 9, but he clocked in one of the 800s. So he went all the way out every single race as a young bird. So he's 2022 rung, I'm pretty sure that is, the blue ones, which were last year. So we'll go through at 480 kilometres. He got 70th fed out of 6. Mind you, we've got 115, 120 flies in our federation. We generally run about 1,000 to 1,200 birds, sometimes 1,500 birds, depending on the races. The longer they get, the less birds, less fires, because they drop off. But he also done a 530 kilometre race, which he got 17th fed and 3rd club. And then we do multiple race points at the same distances. He done 530 again, and he got 3rd fed and he got 2nd club. And when he went out to 800, he got 56 federation and 4th in the club level. So he's been clockbird quite a few times, and the reports back from my mate that he was always there. So he was always with the clockbirds, or he wasn't far away. The only one he didn't do too well on was like the 900, I think, and he took 2 days to come back from that. But that was actually a really hot race. We race into the desert, so yeah, it was one of those races. It was pretty hot and there's no water out there, so that's just another tick in the box for me. Even though it took him 2 days to get home, he made it home for 900. Made it home in that really hot conditions with minimal water and things like that too. So very impressed with him. He ticked a lot of boxes, and even better, he had a sister, full sister. She's a dark checker as well, and she performed quite well. I'm pretty sure it's his nest mate. She actually performed a little bit better, I think, but yeah, I didn't get that one. I just got the cock because my mate's trying to reduce his cocks. But his sister, she was 19th fed 1st club at 760 kilometres. And again, at the same point, she was 13th fed 1st club out of those 760 kilometres. So obviously sister's a little bit better at the longer races, but this guy seems to be optimal around about 530 kilometres, which is pretty good. That's pretty much the exact same distance as a Pattaya 1 loft final. So I'm bringing in the harder, as far as I believe, his European long distance. So not Australian long distance, so handling the conditions quite well. So we'll see how we go with that. And then we've got our little Mealy hen over here. She's predominantly a speed bird. She has raced for 2 seasons, not many races, but she did manage like 2nd club, 2nd fed, and she was like 16th fed and 2nd club as well last year. The first year she was she was there, but she had faster brothers and sisters that better all the time. If you remember that first year, all the Mealies and that were all her brothers and sisters. She was the only one to sort of make it out of there alive, but she did. She did breed a clockbird this year too. The one just been, one of the Mealies was her son, so she has brothers and sisters that breed well. She breeds well, and so the genes are there, so hopefully that passes through. But she, in their first year, she done quite well anyway. You know how tough it is here, and she made it all the way out to 515 kilometres. She's a speed bird too. Like I don't expect her to do those tougher ones, but she was equally consistent on those tough ones as well. We had one race which was, I think it was like, there was some real serious headwinds, and she still made it back on the day. Definitely off the mark overall, but got to remember we're right out the back by ourselves, so the birds do have a long way to go, and they've got to, you know, break and come in. So I'm pretty happy. I'm picking these consistent pigeons, and so far I think we're doing pretty well. So this pairing, I've got it on my notepad because there's just too many results there to remember and be accurate, but they're all online. So they're all there if people want to go and have a look at them on our federation. So it'll be interesting to see how these ones perform. Very excited for those. So bit of focus on them because I want to see how they perform, because I probably won't put Amelia in there because I want to keep Amelia's for myself. But if a dark checker or something comes out of there, I definitely want to put that one in Pattaya. So it'll be interesting to see, because generally, you know, we've got birds that can handle tailwinds and headwinds out to like 800 or 900 kilometers, but I'm hoping that averages like 600 to 800. So I think that'll be quite an interesting mix. Bit of a risk because I haven't tested them yet, but I've tested the parents, but I haven't tested that pairing's baby, so it's going to be very interesting. But they're all starting to lay. We've got Golden Storm. She's actually laid again. She is actually, all my results from last year are inside this little hen, and the cock's also got some, but none of my results. So she's actually related to my 2nd place in the final and my 7th place. In the final, we met her one loft race. We had 2 in the top 10, so she's related to both those. That was a pretty tough race too, but in cooler conditions. And I think they were 3rd ace bird and 57th ace bird. So she's got both those in her. She's also related to my Pattaya bird. So you've obviously got the 270th ace bird in there out of 10,500 pigeons, and those type of things. So you can see I'm trying to explain why I'm pairing them up. Like, obviously there's a lot of results starting to come through from these now. There might be some more in there actually. Oh yeah, and my 3rd, I think it was my 3rd place in the 1st or 2nd race in the one loft as well. That's actually in there. So we had a really good year last year in that one loft race. We had 3 top places out of the 3 races, so can't really complain about that. And what I did as well, so I obviously gave half my prize money away to people that have helped me achieve those results, but the half of the money that I did keep, what I've done is I've done a 3-year plan. I've split that prize money over 3 years, so the next 3 years I don't have to put any money aside for like Pattaya. We've got plenty of money there to keep rolling on with our pushing birds into Pattaya and those type of races. And she's a bit flighty, but so there's a dark checker cock. I call him Last Pick. He's a really odd pigeon, but he is the father of my 7th place and 57th ace bird last year. So I've paired him up to my other hen that I've got here, and my hen Zeta, that done really well. She was 2nd in the final and 3rd ace pigeon. She was extraordinary. I've paired these two together. So this is her full sister. I've got a few of those here. So I've paired her up to Last Pick. So they are going to be some really sensational pigeons. I'm hoping they blend together with a bit of speed, but that real toughness. The cock, those have got the toughness. I've only lost 1 pigeon from him. I haven't bred many, but I've only lost 1, and I've been pretty hard on them. So I really like to see that, because when you spend a lot of money on pigeons in one loft races, you do not want to lose them. You want to get them all to the final, and that's why I was happy with my 2. I only sent 2 to Pattaya this year. Both those birds got to the final, and I managed to get 1 home in the final. So I think value for money, that was pretty good, because I only sent 2 pigeons. It was reasonably cheap. So we'll see, but 2 beautiful pigeons. Probably going to run out of time, but we might just have a look down here as well. So in here I have my 7th place bird, because my 2nd place, went to my friend's house. I went somewhere pretty top secret, and we'll get some babies out of that. But I did bring in my little hen, which is Stealth, and I've paired her up to Apache. So Apache's actually, Zeta's his auntie on both sides, so Apache's a little bit inbred. But Apache actually was the father of Comanche in that run loft race last year, and that Comanche was doing really well, outperforming Zeta by a mile in the beginning. So the genes are there, but obviously there wasn't enough. He just went missing. So I've paired him into Stealth here, because she was my 7th place, and she was very consistent. She was always in that 30 to 25% mark of the birds all the time. She had 1 or 2 little mishaps, but she was very consistent. So I put her and her nestmate brother into that one loft, and both of those made it to the final, but she was the only one that sort of made it home on the final. So at this point I've got some really tough pigeons that will make, like at this point I can get so I've sent 3 lots, and out of those 3 lots of these different tough pigeons, I've got 100% of them to the final, and they get 50, I think it's about 50% of them home on the final. So at this point that's a good sign. I would like to get more home on the final race, but it's generally very tough. So that's why I brought this little hen in, to hopefully pair up with a bit of speed. Even though Zeta was phenomenal pigeon, she's probably one of the best pigeons I've actually seen when you look at the results. So hopefully, I feel like that might just be like kind of more of a one-off. I don't think we're going to see that kind of result again out of my birds, but I'll remain positive. So we'll see how we go. I'm hoping this year, like my goals this year probably for Pattaya, I would like to either get in the top 100 in the final, top 100 in the ace birds, and I'd really like to at least get one pigeon auctioned off on Peeper or something like that. That would be pretty exciting for a little backyard flyer who basically has a few pigeons in a chook shed. So yeah, you can't really complain, but we won't go too much into it because it's just dragon, and it's about to get a bit hot. But we've got a lot more pairs to go through, but I'm explaining it enough so you can follow along. But like, we got hens, we got Rosetta in here, she's popping out eggs, and then there's just birds everywhere. But some really, we'll go into it. We're not going to drag on, but I'll catch you guys in the next video. You want to see some more stuff, put in the comments, and we'll go into it in a bit more detail.